The Island Music Conference 2025 is underway here at Courtly Auditorium in Kingston, Jamaica. I'm Raquel Robinson, and this is PBCJ's coverage of the first day of the proceedings. Pleasant viewing.
We started out establishing that we're here to impact the music industry, and not just the Jamaican one, but also the Caribbean music industry. And then we say we are uniting the world through music, and it's exactly what we're doing. Because you look at the caliber of persons that we bring to the table from across the globe. And this year, what I'm excited about is the schools that are being brought in. So the Jamaica Tourist Board has partnered with us. They're always supporting us from year one. And this year, they're bringing in young people, and also the Flow Foundation, bringing in young people. Young people must be a part of the conversation, or what we have already established as our musical heritage will not go the way we want it to.
Fundamental thing that we have learned about sound system culture is the way in which it became the place for learning, for training. It was this system of apprenticeship. I call it apprenticeship because you couldn't get into the music business and become anybody, certainly not a good performer, if you were not in fact able to manage performing in the streets on the sound systems.
I mean, the thing is, it's very spontaneous. You have to read the audience. It's like reading a room, you know? So if you go up on a sound system, and the same thing can say for artists clashing. It's what the crowd, it's freestyling. It's really having a bunch of lyrics in your head to actually step in at any moment to defend yourself. That spontaneity that you have to have, right? To really connect with an audience. I don't think these younger generations really have that because most of them are just really on dub plates.
It has changed.
The system has changed.
I am not certain I can appreciate Clash now like I used to them because the Clash knows more about the selector than about the DJ. The DJs now are on tracks. The Ninja Man and Sting reverse rehearse make a put in the I don't get that anymore. And the worst part of it now is that I think corporate Jamaica is killing the Clash really. Nobody would know this, know that. It's not us anymore. It's not nice anymore. And it's not that slack and dirty, but there's a space for everything, and the Clash space just not happening like I used to it and like I loved it. But the Clash really shows the versatility of the artist back then. When the artist can hold a mic like Shaggy say, and the man turn over the record. In them days, sometimes it's one turntable and man turn over the record and the DJ just say a thing on it and the next one just come in and say a thing to counter it and all of that. Now it's all about we go in a studio and we have time. It's a cut apart. It's not the same, but we still love our one, except that we're not getting the hardcore Clash because corporate Jamaica decides we can't cuss out a man again.
I think there's a thing that's going too far. Absolutely. You know what I mean? I've gone through clashes and stuff like that myself, and there's certain things I just won't say. You know what I mean? And that's just in respect of sportsmanship. You know what I mean? So I would not do it. I think there is such a thing as going below the belt and going too far, and that could have harsh consequences. In any genre or in any culture where there's competition, it pushes you to rise to the occasion and be at your best. Right? And I think it does well for you in moving forward in your career. If there's competition, right, you are going to be at your full potential, at your highest potential. And I think that's what Clash culture does to you as an artist. And just as a people, it makes us strive to be at our best, you know. So I'm for it.
reggae's always had a standing in so many different regions around the world. Europe definitely is a stronghold. The UK is definitely a stronghold. Canada and the US. I think people ask the question: is that power, is that stronghold diminishing? I think there's been a change and we're going through a transition. There's going to be people that pass away, die out with the music, and then you're going to have to find new fans. And I think that reggae and dancehall has been finding new fans, especially over the last 2-3 years, because the sound that's coming from Jamaica is slightly different from that traditional sound that we know for the boop dancehall or the heavy reggae bass lines. We now got dancehall trap, or we've got like the reggae that sounds a little bit more R&B-ish. So there's changes, and it changes with the audience.
Music are growing, because music is a cycle.
It really depends on, music. What is tasteful to some is maybe distasteful to others. So I think if you do it with good intentions and you think that what you did, excuse me, is not doing a disservice, but maybe you're putting your own spin on it and adding your own creativity to it, and I think it's great, because there are, with sampling, there's interpolations, there's covers, different ways that you can put your touch on sampling, you know what I mean? So it really is, to me, my opinion, and art is subjective, but I think to me, as long as what you're doing, you really catch a vibe from it and your team catch a vibe from it and you think that it is something amazing that your fans would love, that's the first step. Second step is you have to ask permission from the people you're sampling, and hopefully they feel the same.
So right now you might say Afrobeats have a swing. Dancehall never gonna away now. But right now you see dancehall have a resurgence and a refocus, because we get a chance to see what everybody else is doing in the world, and we get to sharpen our skills and come back and say, all right, our time again. Yeah.
There's going to be change. Wherever there's going to be growth, there's going to be change. Does reggae still have that same message that it had 34 years ago? Peter, Bonnie, Bob, Dennis, Alton, all these names, Gregory, where did they all grow up? They all grew up in inner city communities. Some of their children did not grow up in those places. You work hard to be able to provide for your family, to be able to give your children and your family a better lifestyle. A lot of these children are the ones that are making music. You know what I'm saying? Christopher Ellis makes music. We know about the Marleys. Even Dennis Brown's daughter makes music. And that's not just to say it's them that's making music, but then you've got a lot of a Rasta movement that comes out of places like UWI, the West Indies University. Like, these are educated people. They don't come from the same inner city trappings. So the language, the sound, the lyrical content is going to be a lot different. Is it about the same revolution, freedom fighting, uplifting people in that kind of manner that it was trying to free Africa, freeing people like Nelson Mandela? That message has changed.
Because sometimes when you're in the business, you don't know which direction to go, how to carry yourself, how to present yourself, and how to meet and move around with different people. So a conference like this gives you more of a focus or a scope of how to move around and deal with your brand.
The second day of the Island Music Conference is underway here at Corley Auditorium in Kingston, Jamaica. The first panel of the day focused on spinning negative publicity to make a good impact on your brand. I'm Raquel Robinson, and this is PBCJ's coverage of the second day's event. Pleasant viewing.
What do you think individually your role is in spinning negative publicity and staying on brand? I know we have a publicist, we have journalism, and we have communications consultancy. So tell me, what you think your role is in spinning negative publicity.
From a marketing entertainment agency standpoint, a lot of it is building the brand before it even gets to the negative part. Because for any entertainer, the way you respond to something when there's negative publicity has to do with what happened way before that. So what we can do with entertainers, whether you're singing or whatever it is that you're doing, is building that brand from the get-go.
Human nature is a brand. When you're growing up within your family gives you a set of values, right? And these are the values you use to navigate through society, right? Okay, so that's you. So you have a set of values. Then, with those values, you get dressed. This is your image. The way you speak is your voice, and how you continue to speak is how consistent you are in your messaging. So if you just follow yourself as an individual, you're a brand. Because at the core of it is about values, and like I say, if you look at the way that you came into society, it is really and truly the same way brand comes in. Make sure that you're true to your core values. I know that probably your mom, your dad, you appreciate how they raise you and you take their values out there. So that's the same thing with a company. You have your core values. The way you dress is your image, the way you present yourself, and that at the end of the day, that's it. So in yourself, your brand, you have your core values. Today you have your image, and then you have your voice.
What is your brand about? It's not just about music. Most of it is sometimes even away from the music. Yes, produce great music. You know, your music has to definitely make people want to be a loyal fan. And once you have a loyal fan, you can turn that, you can wield the trust that you've built among them to help you when it comes to negative publicity.
If you are a Bruno Mars and you are quiet for a while, that in itself can build anticipation, right? You're wondering, why isn't this artist saying anything? So there's a sense of mystery in why they aren't being so public. And then when they come out, they drop like a fire album. But you have to be a certain level of fame in order for that to work. I mean, Chronix is a good example. He's been very quiet, right? But everybody's anticipating a new album from him, and he doesn't have to be out there publicly and, being on social media. It also is your personality type. But I think there's something great about that mystery and just staying silent. But again, you have to have the following already there.
So I would say that part is absolutely important. Whether it means you have some sort of corporate social responsibility that's attached to your brand, whether it means that you have a social media following that's very engaging, whether it means you're bringing people into a little bit about your life, your family, you decide how you're going to build that loyal fan base. And I think that's probably one of the most important things when it comes to responding to negative publicity from the preventative side. And then of course, on the agency side, we do assist people when it comes to responding, whether it means crafting the right messages, rehearsing for your media interviews, which is so important because how you respond is very important, whether it means you're taking accountability for whatever it is, if that's the case, how you're responding, your demeanor, your body language, everything comes into play, and preparing people for that response is also important on my side.
This is PBCJ's third day coverage of the Island Music Conference 2025. The first topic of the day focused on the digital media landscape. Join us as we bring you highlights of the first day's panel.
It's an ever-changing business. It's always changing. In my career, I started out really singing in jazz clubs, and that's what I want to do. I want to be a jazz singer. But I met these hip-hop producers who were like, we need you to play chords on our beats. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. I studied piano as a kid, and the trumpet. So first I was just like coming in, adding chords to these hip-hop beats. Then I met these other producers like, no, we don't need you to do that. We have tracks already. We need lyrics. I was just open. Then I started going to be this like on-the-spot lyricist person. And then the next thing I know, these songs I was writing for lyrics were just landing on these artists. But then, I was in the glory days of the classic R&B from 93 to 2003. 2003, it really started to change. It was like the hip hop, or even though I collaborated with hip hop producers, it began to be more like R&B became more hip hop. The swag of it changed the music, and I was not good at that. I was good at being more of a classic melody R&B man. So I really went into a major depression. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I was not getting called like that to write music anymore. I didn't feel like my craft had suffered. It just wasn't, I wasn't as honed and as gifted in doing that as a 35-year-old person as I was at the time. I had been trained for a certain sound. But I knew that God was not finished with me expressing myself. So that's when I started to study that there were independent artists that were making their own records. And I started to study the infrastructure. Well, if I want to do this, well, where can I tour? How can I liaise? How can I do listening parties? And then I started to study. I said, you know, I want to sing. I was always singing. I sang on the demo of every hit record I had done. So I said it was just time for me to do an independent artist thing. Then I did that. And then that wasn't always very profitable, but I met people. And it put me in front of lots of people. It put me in touch for doing interviews. I became not just a name and a liner note, but actually a face. And then that led to all kinds of other things by people equivocating a face with music that they respected. That led to speaking opportunities. And then that led to vocal coaching opportunities. People see me singing, they're like, oh, you can write and you can sing, and you've been in the industry for 20 years. You have a lot of information to impart to people. So then I've been a vocal coach for 10 years. Tyler is a client of mine who just reached 1 billion streams, give it up for her. And then I've coached for pretty much every major record label in New York has called me, and LA, to coach some of the newer artists to impart all this information. So I think it's about change and being open to using all of your skills.
We have taken the idea of doing just music and have broken into tech, we've broken into comedy, we've broken into the arts more. The reason being is that we don't believe that musicians are no longer a unilateral thing. Like, musicians are so much more now that they have to be forced to think about merch strategies. They're into acting, they're doing fine art, they're doing so many different things now. So the idea that music exists now in this one paradigm, as he said, it's like, I'm an artist and I use my music to go out there and sell merch, or I use my music to go out and do all these other things. That's the reality of the business right now, that music is one part that supports a bigger ecosystem of things. But in this essence, music will always be the backbone. It's in every television commercial. It's on every film. It's everywhere. You listen to it, you stream it, it's in your car. It's always going to be part of an ecosystem. The question is, where do you fit into that ecosystem, and where do you think that you could make the most money by positioning your brand?
We tend to cherry pick what we remember from the good old days. Artists have been robbed, especially, Black artists of color, have been robbed for a very long time. This isn't some type of a new phenomenon because now you're seeing the data. When you couldn't see the data, it was worse because they were robbing you blind.
Including the Marleys.
Right, so when we talk about comparison of eras and good old days to now, I think we miss out on the fact that now you have more power. We mentioned independence. You can be your own entity. You could see what you're making. You could reach your fans directly. You can create businesses under your brand. Some of these artists were not able to do that. They didn't have that voice. They had to wait for the label to say, you're gonna go to TRL once the park. You're gonna go to this radio station. You're gonna talk like this. You can't speak this way. You need to do this magazine and article. These artists now are controlling their own narratives. They're going on IG Live. They're going on YouTube. They're speaking for themselves, and they have more control over how they're being presented and the money that they can make. So I think we talk about comparison. We're missing out on the fact that nowadays artists can monetize themselves in various ways. And aside from that, even from a content perspective, like, there was a higher barrier of entry. People may argue about this point, where the quality of music may have been higher, but there were a lot of artists that you wouldn't even know about if they had to rely on a label just signing them for you to know them. Nowadays, you can choose who you want to support. There's more artists than ever now that are able to put out their music. Y'all could all put out your music if you wanted to. You don't have to wait for this major label from New York to come down and, like, quote unquote save you and put you on the radio. So you're able to put it in your hands, let the people decide. So when we get to comparisons, I want to also just talk about it from more like a broader point of view. Artists in general have now more power than ever. It's just about how they want to control that and about being entrepreneurial in that power. But relying on a major label, relying on this big entity to do it all for you in either regard, it's not the way.
Every Jamaican think they're artists. They sing in their bathroom and everybody are artists and everybody a star. And that's our thing. We love to be important, but more than being important is being good and being great. Living in the global south, we have to work 10 times as hard to compete with billionaires in the global north. Everybody down this side in history had to put in work more than anybody else. And to be really great, you have to specialize. You know, when you go to school, they give you 13 subjects. and you only remember one, that's the one subject you were really good at. And sometimes they were like, oh, you need to go learn the maths. When you weren't good at maths, you were good at writing, and you should have done more writing. So whatever you're good at, you should focus on it.
Your authenticity and your individuality, your vulnerability is your superpower. You know, really being yourself. And I think that audiences can feel when an artist is authentic, and they can feel when they're being themselves. And that's that part of your art that connects to their hearts. When it comes from your heart, it connects with theirs. So I would say just really be open to being yourself, but also making creativity that is accessible, that can connect from heart to heart. Not so much that it's so much yourself that it's like your own diary entry that nobody else will understand. It's more like you're writing a memoir where you're writing about your own experiences, but you're writing about what you've learned that you want to share with other people because they may relate to it, and it may help them, guide them along the way.
How does it feel being invited to the Island Music Conference, and how do you think it will benefit your future?
I feel very honored and I feel excited. And I think it can benefit me a lot because I kind of have struggles with my violin and my recorder playing. And yeah, so I'm probably going to learn something new and that can help me.
It's very exciting actually to see what they have in store for us to do. Probably it can maybe help me because I want to become a musician. So it can maybe show me some things that would help me, that would benefit me in the future. Yes.
The game has changed a lot for the past 20 years. For example, first time artists come to producers, now artists work within their community because you can put a studio in your bathroom, your kitchen, anywhere. So they have so much more possibilities and capabilities of actually breaking. But I think they need to understand what works well in breaking and what works better in carrying you to a different standard of professionalism. So I think too much person are looking at how do I break and bust versus how do I succeed in the long run, because quality of content is king. And if you don't realize that you need to create content of a certain value, 20 years from now, nobody will know what you are, remember who you are, your works. I mean, even some of the hit records this year, you can't remember them next year. So it shows that the quality of content is where they need to work and recognize to build up a catalog that not just is a catalog, but it has a value later on.
Ownership of our work is sometimes an issue. So if we don't know who owns the work, then we don't know who is entitled to the economic right that's associated with that work.
So always remember, whether you are a producer, songwriter, performer, you create the right to charge a royalty or a fee by the interest, ownership, or rental of the property. Okay, so copyright is a right which is ownership in an intellectual property that has been created and is defined as an original work.
The Legal Deposit Act of Jamaica, that is another avenue where it helps you in proving ownership. Every work that is created in Jamaica is supposed to be deposited with the National Library, and that's what the Legal Deposit Act speaks to. So you have JIPO, which manages the registration of intellectual property rights, and you have the National Library of Jamaica, where you're supposed to deposit your work. So if you have an original work that you have created, it's in the law that you're supposed to deposit it with the National Library.
Well, one of the first things is that events like this, and again, credits to Shaggy for doing all of this, and, I think he is one of the most transformative, innovative persons who wish to see everybody do as well as he's doing. So one of the first things is to attend free seminars like this and learn from those who know. Find someone to mentor with And things like those will work well.
Sometimes you might come into a situation and you're wondering, how am I going to get to the top, right? If you go around somebody that's successful, and even if they have a team already, and you will come in and look at that team, that they might have a 10-person team, a 5-person team. You could look at that team and you're gonna realize there's somebody there not giving their full 100%. Always. Always. And we now, as the entity, we want everybody to be given their 100%. But some people might feel, entitled. Some people might not have the same vision as you. Some people might say, I'm just here to get the paycheck. But if you go in there and you see that one person that's not putting that 100%, right? Say for instance, Jerry is supposed to, they know Jerry definitely he's a man, he gotta have his coffee. I'm just giving that an example. And every time you see Jerry says, where's my coffee? And you go somewhere and says, yo, where's my coffee? In your mind you say, Jerry ain't asking for that coffee the third time. And the dude who's supposed to do the coffee, every time Jerry asks, he go get the coffee. But he shouldn't have to ask. All you do when the third time come around, Jerry go, oh, you got my coffee? No, that was me. Now you're on Jerry's radar. And then afterwards, Jerry ain't gonna be worried about, because the other guy, not realizing that she just took his spot, he's gonna say, shit, she's doing, I ain't gotta do that shit. And guess what? Jerry's gonna recognize and say, from now on, you get my coffee. And that's how you move up, because she just created value to him, right? And he's gonna now move her into other positions. And the person who just slacked up, because some people always think about, I wanna be the boss. I don't wanna be serving this dude, man. I wanna have 100%. I wanna be the guy. 100% of zero is still zero. I'm the proof of that. I am the proof. What she's doing is partnering with somebody that's established, creating value. You know what he's gonna do? He's gonna get to a place where it's like, I can't go to the next chapter without her. So how? I'm gonna incentivize her. And how do I incentivize her? This next chapter we're gonna go, you're now a 10% stakeholder, you're a 20% stakeholder, depends on the value of what she brings to the business. And there you have it. She's now an owner of something bigger. Now she might not have 100% of it, but she has 10% of something that is larger that would be more valuable than 100% of her zero.
We are Island Music Conference, and there was a reason for that. It means that we will be moving across the islands. Already a number of islands who have attended have reached out to us to see where will we go next. We're about broadening the Caribbean footprint. You know, sometimes Jamaica already has a huge impact on the world. Influences music. When you look at reggaeton, when you look at the fact that Kool Herc is who is responsible for hip hop in the United States, and we could go on and on about our influence and our impact. Yeah. However, now when decisions are being made, a lot of the times we are told that, oh, you're only 2.7 million, so you can't be a part of the decision-making process. What if we would come together as one Caribbean, look at what that number would be, and how we could therefore impact music even just a little bit further?
This has been PBCJ's coverage of the third staging of the Island Music Conference IMC 2025. Thank you for watching.